Hey, this is Ben from Ready Set Van. I'm sitting in one of our base campers right now that's getting ready to ship out in a couple days. That's why there's plastic on the mattress. We're not actually going to do a tour of this van today. If you want to see a tour of a base camper, I'll put a link up here to a base camper tour. It'll probably be to the tour of my van, so check that out. But actually what I really want to show you is something special we did for this client up on the roof. The owner of this van is a professional architecture photographer, and what she told me is that, sometimes getting that little bit extra elevation makes all the difference in the world in her photography. Particularly just getting that slightly higher elevation, that's different perspective when she's shooting commercial buildings or residential homes. And so for her, this was an opportunity that she couldn't pass up, having this extra height. She's going to be shooting a lot out of this van, traveling around the country. And so it was really important for her that we build a shooting platform on top of this van. Of course, it was also really important to her that she have solar panels up there so that she can go off-grid longer, she can stay in places for extended periods of time. And also the solar is incredibly helpful for just keeping your van, everything topped up while you're not using it. So, of course, a shooting platform and solar panels kind of don't work that well together typically. There are products on the market that people sort of sell as like walkable solar panels. I don't really like any of them so far that I've seen. They tend to either be exorbitantly expensive or just not really fit for our purpose. And so I spent a little bit of time trying to figure out a solution to this. And I was actually remembered a project that I did a bunch of years ago where I converted a school bus. We had a bunch of roof windows that we put in, these enormous roof hatch windows for the bus that we took to Burning Man. And at Burning Man, you kind of have to be prepared for anything. And it was pretty likely that there were going to be people dancing on top of these windows. And the solution I came up with for that was half-inch polycarbonate. It also goes by Lexan. It's similar to like a plexiglass acrylic type plastic. It's clear, but it's much more durable. It doesn't crack. It's much easier to machine and tool and things like that. So it's easier to work with. And it's an incredibly strong material. So I thought of that for this, and I'll show you, what we ended up doing was basically using some half-inch polycarbonate, and we made out of one large sheet, out of a 5 by 8 foot sheet, we made one large piece to make a single platform up there for her to shoot from. It sits above the solar panels, and so light still gets through just fine. And why don't I show you? All right, so this is what we have. It's one big sheet of half-inch polycarb on top of 80/20 rails and two 175 watt panels. So we got 350 watts of solar and a nice big space. It's super sturdy, super solid. You could have a bunch of people up here. You'd have no problem at all. Of course, the main purpose for our client is that this is a platform for her tripod, for her to do her work. I think it's going to work fantastically for that. Personally, I'm kind of jealous. I sort of wish I had one of these on my van. While we were working on this, we kept finding ourselves sitting on the side and hanging out. It's pretty sweet. There are some downsides though, so I'm going to take a seat and I'll tell you about that. So I'm pretty pleased with the way this turned out. Specifically that I think it's going to solve our clients' needs very well. But it's not without its drawbacks. Polycarbonate, for example, is very prone to scratching. So this is a special hardened polycarbonate. It's much more scratch resistant. It's also UV stabilized, so it's a kind of particular kind of polycarbonate. But it still scratches. So if you were to bring some heavy Pelican cases up here or something like that and drag them around, you're going to get scratches. If you have a beach party and everybody's up here with sandy shoes and they're dancing like crazy, you're going to end up with lots of micro abrasions. The problem with that is that the more scratches you get, the more diffuse this becomes, and the less optically clear it becomes. And the more scratches, the more diffuse, the less solar gain you're going to get on your panels. So, right now with perfectly clear panels, it's about a 5% loss through the polycarbonate. With a ton of, if we took sandpaper to this whole thing, I should try that actually. Maybe I will. Not to this, to a test piece, but I don't know what the losses in solar would be, but could be 25, 30, 40%, probably not 40%, because most of the light is still making it through, it's just its path is changing. So that's one sort of downside. That I think the client is going to take very good care of this. So I'm not particularly worried about that for her. Another downside is there is an air gap between the solar panel and the polycarb. So as of right now, there's no great way to clean that panel if we ever needed to, if pollen builds up on it. We have a couple ideas. We could add some little service holes, and get a sprayer in there. So something like that would work pretty well. These are all kind of experimental ideas, so you know, you kind of learn as you go. There's a bunch of things that I'd like to improve about this in general if this is something that we were going to do. One of those is the fact that it's one giant sheet makes installation kind of a nightmare. Our guys had it was a pain in the I think there's 25 bolt locations. You know, if something needs to be fixed and you got to pull up half of these bolts just to get something under the sheet, it's pretty annoying. We have a bunch of ideas how to improve that, improve our process. One idea I'm thinking about right now is possibly getting some raw panels that aren't in a frame and aren't rigid, and possibly bonding them to the underside of polycarb, and then we can basically make, you know, solar tiles that we bolt in place that to whatever size we want. It's a bit of an experiment. We're going to see how it goes. I'm pretty excited about the initial result. Our client's going to come pick it up, I think, tomorrow or the next day, and I think she's going to be pretty excited too. I don't know, I would love to hear any thoughts that any of you have, whether you've bought one of those walkable solar panel products that's out there, or whether you've come up with your own solution like this, or if you have any thoughts on, you know, how we can improve this, what I haven't thought about that I'm doing wrong, or, you know, things that might lead to disaster with a setup like this. Of course, I'd love to hear those. And yeah, any suggestions, any thoughts? Think it's a good idea? Think it's a bad idea? Let me know. Anyway, I hope you're having a good day. Thanks for watching. Peace.